Welcome to Realty Talk, where we talk real about real estate. No hype, no selling, just facts. My name is Frank Rodriguez, the manager here at Casabella Realty Group. And our goal is to bring you transparent and useful information you can use when making your real estate decisions. We're continuing our multi-unit investing series here. And our first topic that I mentioned in our introductory video is what we're covering today, different types of properties. And just so you know ahead of time, our main focus will be multi-residential income. And I'll break down the different segments of that. Though, since this is a topic of different types of properties, I would like to go into a bit of the other types other than residential income. We have, for example, office buildings. This is an example of multi-unit commercial, right? Multi-unit properties, because if you buy a building either with 6 up to maybe 50 offices, you're going to receive different rent. So we'll cover a bit of that in this video. Another one we're going to cover is the commercial retail space, right? Maybe a small shopping center or even a larger one, right? Or there's even mixed use where office and retail are combined. And that seems to be the trend for the last few years. Now, on this one here, on the last two, I would say this. I think we all know during COVID, office space, even retail space have taken a big hit. And that's why for the remainder of this series, we're going to focus on the multi-residential income space. And the reason is because housing is in demand. You know, people need roofs to live under. And as long as that demand continues to be there, in my opinion, professional recommendation, it's the most solid investment, right? Because of the reason given. And there's also a lot of leverage that can be tied into multi-residential. Now, that said, let's talk a bit about the office building component, right? In case you're into, at your stage of as an investor looking into office buildings, this may be a good opportunity. Again, some buildings have a lot of vacancies, they have a lot of turnover. So if you have a way of making sure that you can keep the building filled, maybe doing some upgrades, attracting more tenants, this may be something you want to look into. On office buildings, what I'll say to this, is the square footage. The overall, what we call rentable square footage, you want to examine the comparables of what that square footage or cost per square foot is going for in these office buildings. Most of the office buildings are full service, meaning they include all the utilities. And each year, the tenants share on the common area expenses, though it's full service where the landlord takes care of everything and then divides it among the tenants each year. Now, on the per square foot cost, when you look at your comparables, the best way to do this is drive around, or if you're looking to invest out of the area where you're at now, go online. And best source may be LoopNet. If you've heard of LoopNet, is where more of the commercial properties are located. Or go online and do a search, office space for rent, for lease, and get to know the different costs per square foot in that particular city or neighborhood that you may be looking to invest in an office building, and come up with an average, right? And once you do that, of course, then you look at the overall building that you may be looking to buy, or as you search buildings, and examine the rentable square footage. And now you have an idea of how much per square foot multiplied by the total, and that'll give you a total amount. And then we'll go into some further numbers on a different video on how to figure out your cap rate and GRMs, right, on that to see if it makes sense. And then, of course, on office buildings, what I would say is just be careful with the trends, right? Um, if it's a particular area where a lot of people are working from home, just be careful with that. Really understand the vacancy factors, because this is where you can be hit hard and lose money. Okay. Now the other one is retail. The same formula. Look at what the going rate for the retail space is per square foot. Look at the leasable, rentable square footage overall, right, in that commercial space if it's retail, and multiply it, and they'll give you your gross. And then we go into the GRM and cap rates, which you'll on a different video learn it, and then you can apply it to these types of properties, right? Now on retail, again, what you're looking for is what's going on, what are the trends in the neighborhood, as far as, are there more people moving out, are there more people moving in, are there big employers coming in, if there's anchor tenants that in that shopping center that you may be looking at that'll bring in a lot of foot traffic. That's always very helpful. The frontage, on the east side or west side of the street. All that matters when deciding to buy retail commercial building on multi-unit. So make sure you work with a very specialized real estate professional that handles commercial for these first two, right? The office space or the commercial retail space, because there's a lot more to it than on the multi-residential income, because there's on the first two there's a lot of variables. It's more vulnerable to what may be going on in the economy as well as locally, right? And just want to be very careful, all right? So on the multi-residential, which will be, as I mentioned a moment ago, the remainder of this series, and again, for the reason given, it's more of a solid investment. And we're here as professionals, especially here at Casa Bella Realty Group, in our department that specializes in multi-units. We're not here to speculate with your money, and we're not going to ask you to do the same. We're looking for solid investments, even though we can't legally say that every investment is guaranteed. We can't say that. There's a good chance from our experience working with so many investors, and personally, myself and the rest of our team members that invest in real estate on the buy and hold side, that these numbers done properly, there's a good chance that you'll come out ahead, right? Meaning winning in that investment. So, because we count on the demand, we count on understanding the neighborhoods, we count on the type of property, which I'm going to go into here in a moment. So, multi-residential income. Okay, so let's start with this one. We can consider multi-residential income property to start at even a duplex, right? Duplex meaning 2 apartments or 2 houses on one lot, one parcel, up to 25, 30, 50 apartments in a building, right? It can go in that range. And what I would say is this: it's going to depend on how much capital you have available and where you're at in your investing career, right? A duplex may be a good start, though it's a little bit more challenging to cash flow, especially if you're going to do some type of financing. Uh, Cash flowing from a duplex, very tight, very tight. Now, we've had clients that start off with the duplex because of the limited funds they have available. And at the moment, they're not looking for the cash flow. As long as the property is making a few $100s more than what's being spent each month, most starting investors are okay with that because they're not looking for the cash flow. They may be looking for the tax write-offs. These may be good W-2 earners, making over 80, 100,000 a year. And they're looking for that additional tax benefit from writing off repairs, which we can't do on a principal residence, right? On a investment, we can, right? Writing off depreciation and many other benefits, and of course the interest taxes and all. Or they're also looking for equity position. They know how financing works, and even though they buy the property with good leverage, meaning a loan, come in with limited funds out of pocket, even though they may be getting $200 to $500 cash flow per month, which isn't much, they know that the tenants are paying down the loan amount. And with time, the loan amount decreases while the value decreases, and the delta between what the property's worth to what's owed happens, right? So they're looking for that long-term play owning a duplex. So it's not a bad thing to start with the duplex, especially if you have limited funds. I would say, get started because later on, of course, you can exchange that duplex into something larger with more cash flows. Okay, so others are triplex and fourplex. Now, the benefit with a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, if you're a starting investor, these can be negotiated using government financing, both Fannie Mae and FHA, right? And let me mention a third, Freddie Mac. They all will back the loans on these type of properties. So that's a big plus because if, for you to purchase with limited funds, you can use these loan programs, government backed, to get into a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, right? And and of course, make sure that cash flow some. What we don't want you doing is losing money per month, not even $100. Okay, making some kind of cash flow, even if it's 100, 200, 300, it has to cash flow along with whatever financing and other expenses, right? Once we uh, sum up the numbers each month, right? So that's a big plus with these. Now, once we get into 5 units and above, this is commercial residential. Now, these here is different type of financing, and usually 5 units and above, there's more cash flow, right? Now, what we have to do, every property has a grade, either A plus, B plus, B, and depending on the type of property that it's graded, there's those targets that we have to meet as far as GRMs and cap rates based on what they're going for. Let me give you an example here. I'm not going to go into too much detail as far as how to figure out these numbers. I'll be doing that on a separate video. Though for the sake of this conversation on different types of properties, this would fall in that bucket. So if I have a 6 unit property here and a 6 unit property on this end, and let's say this is a A property and this may be a B minus property, right? And this is going to depend a lot on the condition of the property, the age of the property, the location of the property, even if it's, rent control or not rent control, all that plays a part, right? So on the A property, the first property, I may be okay. I may be okay with the cap rate maybe of 4% to 5% as an investor, right? Now, on a second property, let's say this is a rent control, it's a B minus property. It may have some upside to it. That's a plus. Though on this one here, I may be looking for maybe a 6 to 7% cap rate. So even though they're identical properties as far as the amount of units, based on how they're classified, the grade will determine the ideal target for cap rates, GRMs, and even your return on investment. So the whole topic of different types of properties goes from 2 to 4 units. Again, can be government backed with FHA, Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae loans. 5 units and above are fall into different type of financing, which is commercial residential. Now, if you notice, I didn't mention condo, townhome, or single family. I know there's investors out there that are okay investing in single families, and there's actually large groups of investors right now across the nation in buying up a lot of homes, and that's okay. My preference is for our clients is to stay away from the condos, the townhomes, the single families, what I like to call the 1 unit property. And the reason is this: when that home goes vacant, there's no more cash flow. While we get in there, get our handyman to repaint flooring, getting the property ready again for lease, and finding the right tenant, it can be anywhere between 2 to 4 months that property can sit there while we're investing in getting it ready for the next tenant, that we're not receiving cash flow. So especially if you have loans against the property, that's 3 to 4 months of mortgage payments along with out-of-pocket money that you're investing to get the property ready. So I'm not a big fan of single families. I made that mistake when I first started this business many years ago, and it was awful. After that, I don't buy single family condos or townhomes for investing purposes. So again, there are people out there that'll tell you something different, and it's okay. If you have a large amount of reserves, that you can take those 3, 4, 5 month hit, right? Another reason I don't like being under pressure, because if you have a mortgage on a property and you know that it's going on the 4th month, you might be more likely to take anyone to rent it out. And then you'll have a whole different set of problems down the line, right? Having a tenant that's not paying while you're paying a mortgage. So the reason I like duplexes and above, preferably 4 units and above, it's because if one goes vacant, you're still receiving income from the other units. So while you get that unit ready to rent again, you're receiving that income that's helping you pay for that, as well as if you have a loan, it's helping take care of the mortgage, right? You might miss out on the additional cash flow to your pocket during that time. So at least you're not coming out of pocket, right? And that's a big thing. All right, so different types of properties. Again, it's a very broad topic. We're going to focus on multi-unit residential from 2 units on up. Watch the next video. We're going to go deep into the numbers to really determine when a property is worth what the asking price is, or if you're determining the price on your own to negotiate what numbers to look at. All right, so thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, do so. And if you think this video can be beneficial to someone that's starting their real estate investing career, forward it to them and pay it forward. All right, take care.